Hey everybody, welcome to Problem of the Week number 3. I hope you were able to get some of these questions done, and thanks again for giving them a shot. I know they're tricky, but if you keep at it, you'll get it. And always check back for the answers. I'll be putting them on every week to help guide you through my process and see how it matched up with yours. I'm seeing some of you when I'm looking over your work that some of the strategies you're all using are different than mine, but they're fantastic because you're getting the answers correct. I love to see it. So in this question, for the first part here, we were given 4 towns, A, B, C, and D, and we were also given the distances between those towns. So I knew the distance between A and B was 27 kilometers. B and C was 21 kilometers, and C and D was 19 kilometers. So the question that we were asked is, well, what is the distance between A and D? Well, for that one, it was pretty straightforward. All right, I was given the individual distances between towns. So if I wanted to find a total distance from A all the way to D, I would have to add all 3 distances. So 27 plus 21 plus 19 gave me 67 kilometers. And I took my answer there and I wrote it down in my chart. So from A to D was a total of 67 kilometers. And I followed the exact same strategy for solving the distance between B and D. All right, I knew B and D was now 3 towns, so there was 2 distances. So all I did was add those 2 distances. So from B to D, it was 21 plus 19, which left me with a total of 40 kilometers. So from B to D was 40 kilometers. So the second question was a little more tricky. Now, you can see I've added a lot of stuff in here. And this is to kind of just guide my thinking as I was solving the question. So when you started this question, you had nothing up here. You were just given P to Q to R to S to T with no numbers, no lines, no anything. The only thing you were given were these 4 distances in the chart below. I've already added some, but these are the 4 you began with. So what I did to start solving this question is I started recording these distances up above on my chart. So I knew the distance from P to R was 29. So I wrote that in there. P to R, 29. I knew the distance from Q to S was 31. All right, Q to S, 31. And I also knew the distance from R to T was 29. All right, and I was given one longer distance, and that was P to S, and that was a total of 48 kilometers. So what I wanted to do was start taking some of the things I know to solve some of the other areas that I didn't. So for me, I wanted to start figuring out what the distance between P and Q was. I don't know, maybe it's because it's at the top of the chart, but that's where I started. So there's a couple things I know that led me to figure out what that distance was. Now, first things first, I knew the distance from P to S was a total of 48 kilometers. So that's the whole thing. Now, I also knew the distance from Q to S. So if you look at Q to S is part of that whole thing. Now, we're calling the whole thing right now 48 from P to S. Now, if I take away part of that whole thing, so right here, the part of that whole thing is 31. So 48 minus 31 would leave me with 17. So I know sorry, this is supposed to be 19. So I know the distance between P to Q now is 17. All right, I'm going to use that same strategy all the way along now. So I wanted to solve the distance between Q to R. Now, I could do that using the new information that I just solved in the distance between P and Q being 17. Now, the whole thing, we're always going to talk about the whole thing and then taking away part of that whole thing to leave us with the amount that we're looking for. Now, the whole thing here is P to R, and that total distance is 29. So right now the whole thing is 29. All right, and if I'm trying to solve Q to R, I can take away part of that whole thing. So 17 is part of the whole thing of 29. So if I subtract 17 from 29, I'm left with 12. All right, so I've written that total down here. All right, I'm going to follow that strategy again when I try to solve for R to S. So the distance from R to S should be 19. I'm going to use the exact same strategy. So I know the distance now from Q to R is 12, and I know the total distance from Q to S is 31. So 31 minus 12 is 19. All right, and I'm going to follow that exact same strategy again to find the distance between S and T. I know the whole thing is 29. I know part of the whole thing, R to S, is 19. So 29 minus 19 leaves me with 10. Now that I have all of the individual distances, now it's going to be pretty easy solving the rest. So the first one I see here is P to T, so the whole thing. So the distance from P all the way to T, you're going to have to add up each individual distance, which gives us a total of 58 kilometers. I kind of fast-tracked that because I saw the distance from P all the way to S. Well, we know it's already 48, and I just calculated that S to T is 10, so I just added 48 plus 10, and that gave me 58. Now I have to find the distance, and the last one to do is the distance between Q and T. So we got to go from Q here all the way to T. So again, I'm going to fast track it a bit. So I know Q to S is 31, and I know the distance between S and T is 10, so 31 plus 10 would give me 41. I hope you understood that. I know I'm doing a lot of talking. I hope I'm not rambling when I'm giving you these answers. They always make sense to me. I just hope they make sense to you and kind of help you figure out the process in which you solved. And maybe if you made any errors, correct them as you look this over. And then maybe next time you'll get it perfect if you didn't obviously already. Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you watching the video and checking for solutions every week. You're awesome. Keep up all your hard work. Bye-bye.